So first and foremost, keep it simple, because people overcomplicate it. People usually end up never starting or half-assing it or missing some key element because they're trying to get another element that they thought was important. So an easy example is, yes, you should have something on the back end to monetize, but if you don't, you don't. It's okay. You still have the book, right? You still, so don't overthink the launch, and plan to launch on a napkin. Like, plan your strategy. If it's more complicated than a napkin, you're overthinking it. I did all of this stuff while launching 2 companies. It took me 10-15 hours a week once the book was launched. Like, the hardest part was that 5 weeks of writing the book between me and Rob. We probably didn't sleep like 3 nights a week, but we got the book done. But after that, it was 10-15 hours, and we had a process, and that's because we had 5 or 6 key ways we were going to promote it. So first and foremost, when you do plan to write a book and launch it, do the research. Most people forget about this as well. They write about what they want to write about, and no one cares what you want to write about. No one cares what you're an authority of. It has to be mixed with something popular or something people are generally interested in. So do your research, and do your research also means look who else has written a book on it. Look who else is. Look how many books have been written on this topic. My second book, Content Marketing Playbook, didn't do as well. I still sold 10,000 copies, but it didn't do it because I got too cocky from my first book, and I wrote a book on content marketing where there was 100, 200 books already written. I wasn't the first one. Where on growth hacking, I was probably the first 3 or 4 people. There's still a big opportunity. I missed the boat, and timing was bad. So you can always do more research. Another thing is talk to successful authors, and you're probably thinking, how do I do that? How do I get New York Times best-selling authors on the phone? Well, email them. Like, you'll never know unless you try, and I can guarantee you can get at least 2 people on the phone if you really try. And so the easiest way is peg them a compliment, be specific. If you're going to reach out to Gary Vaynerchuk, maybe he's not going to respond, but he probably will if you ask him a very, very specific question. So talk to people who have done it before, figure out what they've done, and I did the same thing. I talked to a ton of authors and publishers before I did anything. Use common sense, because this is probably where people, again, overthink things, or they go too in depth in their heads about what they should be doing or what they want to do. It's never writing a book or content, even blogging or whatever. It's not ever about what you want to write about. It's what people want to learn about, what can help people. And the way I phrased really a book launch is, or writing a book, is find something you're qualified to write about that's not crowded, has a lot of search volume, and has high demand on merchant words. So merchant words is Amazon keyword research. Essentially, it's what like SEMrush or keyword research tools are, but for Amazon. So you'll find keywords that are high volume, and you can do your research on both. And if you kind of align both Google and merchant words, there's a good topic or high interest. Keep your writing simple, right? I wrote this book on Keynote, right? It's probably the worst platform to write a book on. It's a presentation platform, and not the best one at that. But you could do it, right? Write on Google Docs, write on Word. And I recommend, instead of trying to figure out the formatting of Kindle or Ebook, go hire a professional, because it's not that expensive. It's like $200 at most. I've found some services as low as $40, $50. You can use Upwork, or you can just Google like ebook PDF converter. Again, keep the formatting very, very simple, because the most complicated thing is when you have 500 pages written or 100 pages written, to translate them or move them over, change the design. I know, like the book I wrote, I wanted to print it out. I wanted a print version, but I can't, because each page has 9 links. And in order for the book to make sense, without those 9 links, I have to rewrite the whole book, or revise a lot of it. And like I said, plan at least 2 or 3 ways you can pre-promote it. So there's the 5 or 6 napkin strategy, 5 or 6 tactics, but you also want to have 2 or 3 of those tactics that you can use before the book launches to build the buzz and generate traction. And to be honest, if you don't get traction early on, if none of these tactics work for you, who cares? Don't launch the book. Refund everyone's money back. It's better to call it a quits early than essentially go down a path where it's doomed. So where to publish? There's a few different places you can publish. And I'll be honest about the last one, professional publishing through Penguin or any of the major publishers. I have no freaking clue. It's very, very complicated. But I do know about self-publishing. So Gumroad is a great place. They have a really good UI. Sells is an alternative to Gumroad. If you like their UI, I don't know, I have nothing against it. I just prefer Gumroad. Smashwords is a great place to also use. Smashwords, what they do is they distribute it to many different places. So they distribute it to, I think, Amazon. They distribute it to the Nook store, which is like Barnes & Noble's thing, and a few other places. So you can sell it in multiple areas, and you leverage their kind of network. Not Smashwords network, but that individual book, and you get a little bit more sales, but it's saturated. You might have customer support issues. And then lastly, Amazon. So if you want to self-publish, Amazon's a great place. I didn't use Amazon, and it was a little bit by accident, and also because when you launch a book that's more than $9 or $10, you have to pay them 70% royalties, and I was like, that's a lot of money. I don't want to do that. And you don't own the email list. So one thing I didn't mention, but I will mention for you guys is build an email list. Use your email list. To be honest, I didn't have an email list when I did this. I actually used this to build my email list. And now I have an email list. And that's why I was able to get 10,000 copies of my next book sold, is because I emailed everybody that bought the first book. And even then it wasn't essentially as successful. But if you're going to publish on Amazon, Kindle Direct Publishing that's what the place you submit your book to, and then CreateSpace. Don't forget about CreateSpace. Great place. It's essentially print on demand. It's through Amazon. Amazon owns this company. If you're going to launch a book, actually, I just helped one of my friends launch a book today called People Management, and we figured why not launch on CreateSpace. And given if you're an author of a book. If you have an actual copy, you're a physical author versus an ebook author. If you want to publish professionally through a major publisher, it's incredibly difficult. I highly recommend you focus on getting a win first, something you can brag about. You're going to need an agent. I've done all the research in order to do this. I just haven't done it myself. You need to find an agent. And no agent's going to represent you unless you have a big win or a big brand or some big asset, and typically it's a lot of followers or some sort of pseudo internet celebrity status. And you need to create a pitch deck. Again, talk to people that have done this before and get some advice on how to create a pitch deck for a book if you go down this route. I don't recommend going the professionally published route for the first book because you could spend a lot of time in what I call purgatory, where you're just pitching these publishers, and they take forever to get back to you. And I'll be honest, the publishing industry is a huge monopoly. They're owned by like all these companies are owned by 2 or 3 big players. So I have nothing against that. That's awesome for them, but it's shitty for you because you're going to just pitch the same people, or they may reject you, and it just takes a long time, a lot of bureaucracy. So you're going to spend a lot of time figuring out how to do a pitch and finding an agent more than the actual book. And most of these publishers want to leverage you to do the promotion. So you're going to end up back in the same boat just a little later. Pricing and monetization. So I'm just going to break it down very, very simple for you. $9 to $99 is what you can get away with an ebook for, or a book. $9-ish plus or minus $3. If your book doesn't help people make money, if it's a hobbyist book, if it's more technical, if your book helps people change their lives, meaning professional growth, and it's tactical, you could charge a lot more because one thing somebody can take from that can drastically improve their lives. $30 price point typically works best. So there's the 3 price points. There's 25 or ending in 5, 27 ending in 7, or 29 ending in 9. Those are 3 of the best historically price points you want to start with. It always circles through. Every couple of years it changes. It depends on who you talk to. If it's B2C or B2B, it changes. And you can't go wrong with any of those. Just test them. 27 works for me the best. On Amazon, $3.99 is the best. That's the simple answer. I've done a ton of research. It's the best to get your brand out there, to be credible, but low enough where you can get volume, because there's so many books out on Amazon. You need the volume and the velocity to rank anywhere. And plan for a back-end monetization, but keep it very, very simple. The premise of my presentation is actually keep it simple. I didn't do a lot of the conventional things. I probably missed out on a lot of opportunity, but if I would have captured those opportunities, I probably never even launched the book. I would have focused on the planning. I would have focused on all these things I had to learn. Like, I didn't have a drip course. I probably should have an email list, or I probably should have gotten affiliates or joint ventures or people to help me promote the book, but I didn't. And pay them, actually, do some cross promotion. But I didn't do any of that. I just kind of hacked it together and iterated. So back to the monetization. There's a few different ways you can monetize the back end, an online course. So you're essentially selling more details about whatever your topic you're writing about. So if you're writing on a book on painting and various paint styles, you can literally do YouTube videos on the exact same thing, just in more detail. Coaching, essentially it's typically $1,000 or less a month, or actually $1,500 or less a month, where you give some time a month to a person and you coach them through whatever your book actually talks about. So in my case, I would be coaching people through how to implement the growth hacks, because people get stuck, they may have questions or whatnot. I didn't actually do this, but I chose the services and consulting route because it's something I knew. Consulting is definitely, you can make a lot more essentially revenue off it if you charge the right amount. Most of that, a little under 200K, 198K, came from 5 clients. So 5 clients is really what all that amounted to. So I didn't have to have a lot of sales. So I got a few dozen people that inquired, but essentially it was only 5 people I needed. So that's another great way. And remember, like, that's how I made most of my money from the book. Most of it came from 3xing my price and services. So there's always that to consider. And to be honest, if you launch a consulting page and you have at least a landing page to generate leads and it doesn't go anywhere, who cares? You only have to create a page. And go talk to experts. Like I said, you can get a hold of these experts. If you can't get a hold of me, and I'll get you in contact with a few people, or tell you how to do it yourself. I'd rather teach you how to do it yourself, because then you don't have to rely on any one person. And read this book, Jeff Walker Launch. A lot of what I did came from his book. It's a few-year-old book, but it is the strategy. Jeff Walker is the master at launching info products, internet businesses, and whatnot. But whatever you do, if it's an info product, go talk to 3 to 5 people who have done it before, and I guarantee you're going to get a few tips and tidbits of whether you should do it, how to do it better, or to stay away from it. And sometimes staying away from it might be the better idea. That is my presentation.